Hello, good morning, good afternoon. I hope you're doing really well. It's Saturday afternoon here and I just wanted to do a bit of an informal chatty video, I suppose. So I've been thinking about video ideas for a little while, and something that I've kind of been feeling and thinking about a lot is my vision for the future. So a lot of what I talk about is kind of related to sustainability in some way, so living a sustainable life, doing things that aren't having as much impact on the environment as we might do otherwise. And a lot of the reason for that is, I suppose, comes from a mixture of fear and hope. So, you know, I could easily just carry my life on, driving around as much as I was driving around before, throwing plastic in the bin, buying things new, instead of making an effort to buy things secondhand, use less plastic, use my bicycle more and avoid driving as much as possible. So there has to be a reason for why I'm doing these things, and for me it comes from concern for myself, for the future, what the future holds, but also concern and fear for how people are being treated now and how people are being impacted by the climate crisis already. So I thought it would be a more positive thing to think about my hopes and my vision for the future that I hope that we will see. There's quite a lot of fear in me about what the future holds, but there has to be hope, otherwise why would I bother trying, you know, and why would I take the time to talk to other people about ways to look after the environment better and to do better. And I do think that every little thing matters. So every little bit less carbon that goes into the environment, every little bit less plastic that goes into the ocean or landfill, all matters. It's all really important. So every little thing, even if we end up doing something which isn't so environmental, you know, we're living in a system that isn't set up to care for the environment. That's the issue. That's how we got into this place. But yeah, I do think that every little thing that we do is important and has an impact and feeds into this hopeful place that I imagine us to potentially end up in the future. I hope. So one of the reasons that I get involved with protest and non-violent direct action is because I have this hope. I have these dreams for myself when I'm older, for people in other places that are being impacted earlier than we are, and for the next generation as well. I have this idea in my head of what is possible, and it's very frustrating to know that the government, the people in power, do not have that vision, and they're not in a place necessarily, due to the fact that politics is on such a short-based turnaround. It's always short-term goals, and they're not thinking about in 30, 40 years time, even 10 years, 5 years time. They're not thinking about that, and that is very frustrating. It's very short-sighted. And we're in a situation where we need to be thinking long term, longer than 2 to 4 years kind of thing. And so protest is a way of saying, for me, please listen to what we want to see, what we want to happen. Please listen to the scientists and think about what's really important and act. Like right now, every day is it's all slipping away. And every day that action isn't being taken on a global and national scale takes us further away from the potential for this future of hope. So that's why I do get involved in protest, and that's why I do this YouTube channel, and why I try. I'm certainly not perfect in any shape or form, but it's why I try to do what I can to make less of a negative impact, I suppose. So this video has kind of stemmed from an event that I went to a few weeks ago. So I was in London a few weeks ago and I went to an event, it was part of the Extinction Rebellion protests, but the event that I went to was about well-being, and it was about mindfulness. So it was in Hyde Park, and it was mindfulness with nature, but there was also a touch of how do we envision the world in the future. What is it that we're fighting for? What is it that we want to see? And it comes from this idea of having a vision for the future, having a vision of what you're working towards. And I think it's related to kind of manifestation and having these ideas of goals and how you want your life to be. And it's definitely something that I've used in the past to help me achieve my goals, is to really imagine how I want my life to be, the situation, how I want things to change and evolve. And I think that's a really powerful thing, to take the time to think about what it is that you want, what it is that you're working towards, and having that vision. And I do think that it's a very personal thing, so we probably all have very different visions of what the future's going to be like for us personally. And I think societally as well, nobody knows how things are going to be in the future. We don't know how technology is going to change, or how society as a whole, we just don't know how these things are going to change. But I would like to share an idea of how I see things in the future. And it very much is inspired by Kate Raworth's donut theory, which is a culmination of other economic theories as well. And I'm currently reading a book because in the past, and still now, I do feel that capitalism, how can we get to somewhere better with capitalism still in place? But also, how do we get away from capitalism? So I'm kind of, a lot's going on in my mind around, do we fight to get rid of capitalism and start over? Or does it make more sense to work in the system that we've got and improve it? And I do not know the answer to that. I really don't know the answer to that. The kind of fiery part of me, my Aries energy, is very much like, let's destroy capitalism and start again. But I don't think that's necessarily a reality in my lifetime anyway, in the next decade even. So I suppose it is about fitting into what currently is and improving on it. And so that means that we have to still have economy and profits as something that is part of what we do. So there's the economic side. So within my vision, we are still functioning in a similar economic way in terms of capitalism and economy. But I think that there are certainly much better ways to approach it. And as I've mentioned before in previous videos, it's about the 3 pillars of society. So it's about profit, but it's about people, and it's about planet. And so far, profit has been the number one most important thing, and people and the planet have suffered. And it's about bringing those so they are each equal parts of the pie. And in fact, profit is potentially a much smaller part of the pie, of the column. It's a much smaller column. The table's tilted a bit, and profit is less important. So there's the economic side. So the 3 pillars, donut theory. So that means that we're living within a safe and space place for humanity, which means that we're not using too many ecological resources, and we're not benefiting from other people's suffering. So we're meeting the needs of the people whilst not using too much of the planet. So the economic side of it is something that's really important to me, something that I've learned about only in the last couple of years, but kind of understanding that there's different options to the capitalist system that we live in now, and there are ways that we can prioritise people and the planet while still living in this economy and living in that safe and just space for humankind. That is so important to me and to the work that I do, and to how I want to make change in the world, how I want to make ripples. That's kind of the core of why I do it. But it's not so easy to imagine and to vision and visualize what that's actually like. I think it's much more important and much more powerful to actually imagine the kind of day-to-day lives that we could live, because that's what it comes down to. We want to be able to survive, we want to be able to flourish and enjoy life. And I would say that the current system does not leave us in a position. I think I'm certainly privileged, but actually the mindset that it puts onto us and the way that we have to live isn't sustainable for the planet or for our mental well-being. And thinking about the fact that I'm very specifically talking about the UK and I suppose the US and kind of more developed countries as a whole, that we are in a situation where 2 adults don't have any children, are struggling to own their own home, working full time, and it's still too hard to save up a deposit to own your own home. That's not a good place to be in. And that's because profit is being prioritised over people's well-being and over people having a safe and secure place to live. And more people are having to sacrifice a life that they enjoy, where they feel secure, have their own home, making choices about having children, making choices about experiencing life and things. And actually it comes down to the fact that people are having to work, or 2 adults in a household are having to work 40 hours a week, trying to save what they can if they want to buy a house or whatever it is. And you know, people don't have time to step back and enjoy life so much and be a little bit more self-sufficient. And I think that's kind of what I'm going to come on to as well. So speaking very personally for myself, something that I've struggled with through my 20s, I've talked about it before as well, is this kind of constant go, go, go mindset. I always have to be achieving something, I always have to be productive, and I think that's really damaging, and I think that's how a lot of us think. I think it can be productive if you have things that you want to do and things you want to achieve, but to a point. So I think when you get to the point where you can't enjoy your weekends because you feel so much pressure, and when people say to you, oh, what are you up to this weekend? And in the past, I'm trying to change now, but in the past it was always, oh, I'm doing this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, you know, I've got to get this done, I'll be here, I'll be doing that. And actually saying to someone, I'm just going to have a really relaxed weekend at home and I'm just going to really enjoy myself, isn't necessarily, I suppose it depends who you talk to and what situation you're in, but for me it felt like I had to be saying, and maybe that comes from my own internal struggles, but anyway, I'm definitely trying to change that. And if someone says, what are you up to this weekend? Oh, I'm gonna potter around the house, I'm gonna watch a film, I'm gonna plant some vegetables, but I don't feel the need to spend hours and hours and hours working on an allotment or a garden. I'm just gonna have a go at doing some things. Maybe I'll paint something, maybe I won't do anything, maybe I'll read a book, who knows? And I think that lifestyle where we slow down and we start to really enjoy the moment. So I was feeling recently that I was very, very overwhelmed. I have had a week where I had things on every single evening, I was away for a couple of days, and it kind of really, really overwhelmed me. All these things that I had to do, I was fitting things in on my lunch break, and it felt so much like 2, 3, 4 years ago, pre the lockdowns and everything, where I had to be go, go, go all of the time. And people always said to me, God, you're so busy all the time. And I took that as a compliment. Oh, you're so busy all the time, you're always doing something. And I have really changed. I'm kind of come into a very different season in my life. And when I was feeling overwhelmed a few weeks ago, I thought to myself, oh, I wish we could have lockdown again. I felt like I needed an external factor to step in and take control of what was going on. And that made me realise I don't actually have that many responsibilities. I don't have kids. I work a Monday to Friday job. They're not expecting me to work in the evening and weekends. All of this stuff is coming from within me. I have the power to say, I don't want to do that actually. Or even, I'm just going to take some time for myself. I can do that, and I think, perhaps I'm wrong, but I feel like my vision and idea for the future is more about people really enjoying their local areas. It is more about that kind of lockdown life, but obviously being able to spend time with family, friends, you know, having people over, not all the antisocial stuff, but just actually being at home, growing some of your own vegetables, really enjoying your local space, and moving away from this need to kind of drive to the shops and go shopping, and these actions and behaviours which are not only damaging for the environment, they're not necessarily something that's really fulfilling. It's just that we all feel that we have to always be going out and about and doing things. And so in a way I'm coming to this season of my life, and I'm wanting to make it how I want the future to be, is how I think if everyone kind of behaves more in this local, relaxed, centered way, if people felt appreciated at work and like they didn't have to work ludicrous amount of time to put food on the table, and felt that they had a bit of spare time to grow some vegetables in their garden, so there's less pressures on local supermarkets and food being travelled in from places, and just kind of we're more prioritising local things and enjoying life, just enjoying life really, enjoying life local to them. I think that it could change things a great deal. So for me, last weekend I had what I described as the perfect weekend. I had such a nice time, and I am this weekend as well, but I rode my, Saturday morning I rode my bike down. Well, Saturday morning I started off reading in bed, just really relaxed. Cycled down to my local park run, did a 5k run, cycled back, went through town on my way back on my bike ride, said hello to people, saw some people that I knew, had a little chat, it was really nice. Went to the local market and got myself a bouquet of flowers, and then went home, had breakfast, had a shower, just kind of really relished and enjoyed the morning. And then I did a little bit of gardening, planting some plants, and I think I just then read a book, watched a film, and just really did what my heart wanted to do. And I think it's definitely two aspects of it. It's what's the world going to be like, because we're going to be in a situation where we're not able to use our cars as much. We're not going to be able to fly off on all these holidays, and day to day needs to be simplified. But I think that simplification, which is going to come from what's required for the environment, is going to have a really positive impact. I hope and I believe it's going to have a really positive impact on the way that we live our lives. Because I do think that a lot of unsustainable behaviours, such as spending money on fast fashion, buying food in plastic, driving to the shops, all of this stuff in part comes from the busy lives that we lead. So because we're putting so much time into work and making money, we require convenience so that we're not totally overwhelmed all of the time. So actually taking a step back and having more space to do things like repairing clothes, learning a new skill, like just repairing things, gardening, baking, making bread, whatever it might be. I'm not saying that all of us have to learn how to do all of these things, but I think that if there's more space, there is more room for people to live more sustainably, and sustainably for the environment and for their mental health as well. So perhaps this is totally out there, I don't know, it's just what I've been mulling over for the last few weeks, and I'm really leaning into this. I'm going to keep calling it the season of my life. I'm not sure which season it is. I mean, I know it's spring, but and it definitely helps that it is spring, and I'm enjoying, though it's really, really cold. today. I really wanted to sit in the garden because it's beautiful sunshine, but I'm absolutely frozen, so I haven't done that. I could wrap up more, but I want to wear a dress and a thin cardigan, and I don't want to get all bundled up in winter clothes. But anyway, yeah, maybe perhaps it's an autumnal time in my life for me because things are slowing down, going into hibernation, relaxing a little bit. Feels like summer's always a little bit busy, get out and do things, and we all need a little bit more autumn in our lives perhaps. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's just been me kind of thinking out loud, and I'd really love to know others' opinions on this as well, because I do think that just simple things like a 4-day work week, more kind of working from home as well. I know a lot of companies have forced people back into the offices, and actually perhaps what we've learned from working at home is that you're producing less emissions and it's a little bit more relaxed. You're in your home environment, you don't have a commute, and that kind of thing. I've made a conscious decision a long time ago that I wanted to work somewhere that I could walk or cycle to. So I kind of made the decision to live in a town, and that meant that if, you know, I can go to work every day without creating any, you know, using any fuel. And then if I want to go out into more of the countryside, perhaps driving the car once every few weeks or something out for a longer walk in the countryside isn't such a big deal. And this isn't just about the percentage of the population that work in 9 to 5 Monday to Friday jobs. We need to be treating retail workers and people in hospitality better. We need to be treating people that work in hospitals and services and police and everything. Everyone needs to be treated better, because at the moment cuts in cost and value are really impacting on people's lives. And we need to be treating caregivers as if what they're doing is valuable. So this is whether it's a person who works in care, such as working in old people's home, but also parents who are taking time off work to look after their children, raising children, and people who are caring for elderly or disabled relatives, and just anyone who is giving care to another person needs to be treated better, because what they're doing is of huge value to society. So I'd love to know thoughts of what's going on with you. I feel like I've just had a little bit of a chat with a friend, but I've done all of the talking. So if you have anything you'd like to share, perhaps I'm totally out there, but it's just been all noodling around in my head a little bit, so I thought it would be quite nice to share with someone else. So yeah, I hope you're having a lovely day. Hope you have a little bit of a chance to step back, relax, and do something that you really enjoy. And I do share some regular updates on my Instagram, so it'd be lovely if you'd like to follow me there. And I'll see you again soon, I hope. Bye!